Five, four, three, two, one. This is Deducter bringing you the final match of the OSL Ro24 Group C. This is between Shine and Shuttle, a sort of rematch of Game 1 on a different map. Mancha, they are in cross-map position. It appears that Shine is the Yellow Zerg at the 1 o'clock, and Shuttle is the Protoss at the 7 o'clock position. So they're still wearing that Korean Air jacket. That's interesting. Or at least I have to say Shine is. I'm not quite sure why. I think he did make it into the round of 4 semifinals in the Korean Air OSL, the first one. And maybe that's why he's wearing the jacket. He gets to wear it because he's a semifinalist back then. I'm not sure. Not quite sure what the reason there is. Nevertheless, that appears to be what he is wearing. But both these players, having played in the first game, I have to say, Shuttle beating Shine there. Unfortunately, it was not a particularly memorable game by either players. Shine did acquit himself fairly well in the ZVZ game that he played against S2. He had some very impressive meatless micro there, I have to say. So perhaps here's hoping that he would be able to gain some confidence. He's gained some confidence since his matchup then, and we see this probe scouting out here from Shuttle. Appears to be probably a 12-hatch build coming out here from Shine, judging by the fact that he's not put down his... Well, he could go for 12 pool, but that's pretty unusual, I think, versus Protoss. Yep, 12-hatch, and he's... Wow, I don't know whether he's going to put down natural like a third position. Looks like he is putting it down as natural. Alright, good for him. So it looks like Shuttle is going to scout Shine soon regardless. But as I was saying, Game 1, not particularly memorable. Again, neither one of these players is that great. Shuttle did famously lose the movie in the Korean Air semifinals. 3-1, I believe. And, wow, movie is not exactly a very good Protoss player. So, you know, this sort of gives you an idea of the caliber of player that Shine is, at least against Protoss. He is quite good at Zerg vs. Zerg. And he is a fairly aggressive player. Perhaps he might do some sort of all-in type attack again, as long as he kills this probe. Maybe he'll go for an early Hydra bust or something like that. I would say maybe he wants to end the game like that. It looks like Shine sending out his drone to get the third base, probably going to the bottom right position at 5 o'clock. Actually, that's interesting. He is not going there. It looks like he is going for the 3 o'clock position. That seems somewhat unusual for Zerg. I mean, on these 4-player maps, generally what the Zerg likes to do is put down an expansion, their second expansion, their third base at the natural of a main spawn point, and then manage to get themselves up to 4 bases. So perhaps Shine is seeking some sort of shorter game. The advantage, of course, of putting your expansion at 3 o'clock is it will be closer to defend. But on the other hand, I believe there are 2 avenues of attack open. It's somewhat harder to SimCity Ying, and this drone might go down to the probe, but no, the probe has... Oh, the probe getting picked out by the Zerglings there, too weakened by its struggle against that drone. So good work by Shine there. I mean, when you lose the drone, that's just terrible micro. But when you don't lose the drone and yet get your drone down fairly low HP and kill the probe, that's amazing micro. Although sometimes the line between success and failure is very thin indeed, and it could just be luck playing a row. Although I guess the drone with 11 HP, that is not luck, that is skill. That's not quite taking it to the edge. Regardless, Shine going for his lair now. And unfortunately, you know, neither one of these players really excited the imagination in their first matchup here, and does not appear... Well, it's a bit early to say. I mean, Shuttle is unfortunately no Bisu here, but then again, really no other Protoss is a Bisu against Zerg. I mean, it's very dangerous to make statements like X and so is the best player of all time, or like Flash is the best player of all time, or Jaedong is the best Zerg player of all time. Statements like that, I think, are at the least dangerous to make, and I personally believe wrong. You can definitely say that they are one of the greatest players of all times and the most dominant players of their eras. But I think it's a mistake to say, who is the greatest. It depends on what. I mean, who has the greatest influence? There's no question. It's Boxer. It doesn't matter how many more Meadows Flash or Jaedong wins. They can win 20 Meadows. Well, maybe by 20, which I think is impossible feat. Maybe then they would eclipse Boxer, but no. It doesn't matter, I think, because Boxer will always be dearest in the hearts of many, many StarCraft fans. But I think it is safe to say, unequivocally, that Bisu is the greatest PvZ player of all times, because no other Protoss in any era of StarCraft has really shown his level of consistency and brilliance against Zerg. I mean, think about all the major the innovations against Zerg. Bisu really pioneered most of them. The original Bisu build with the Corsair Dark Templar, more recent attempts like Zerg, for a brief period, I believe in 2010, were owning Protosses left and right with 5-hatch Hydras. And it was Bisu who came up with the early +1 speed lot attack to counter it. And he really was one who employed it very well, and other Protoss started to copy it. I mean, Bisu could do anything against Zerg. He's gone Corsair Reavers before, and he does it extremely well. Only perhaps Stork is his equal in that regard. A masterful use of Dark Templars for the most part, and just general solid, good gameplay, and incredible multitasking. And this is specifically against Zerg. He's by no means weak in his other matchups. He's very good still, maybe versus Terran, and it's always been a bit of weakness, but he is truly some sort of versus Zerg savant. And it looks like Dark Templar coming out here for Shuttle. Just as I said, talk about Bisu, of course, Shuttle bringing out the Dark Templars, but he's, interestingly enough, not chosen to send his Corsairs out. In fact, he hasn't sent his Corsairs out this entire game, just sort of parked them in his base. I don't know where I'd agree with that decision. That seems kind of foolish to me. Maybe he wants to preserve his strength, but he needs to have the presence of mind to keep his Corsairs alive against Scourge. And it looks like that Dark Templar not going to do anything, because Overlord plus Sunken going to ward away with a solitary Dark Templar. The Dark Templar going to take a peek at the natural, but it sees the blockade, and the Overlord it's not going to be able to do anything. It sees some Scourge morphing, so this Dark Templar has essentially turned out to be a very expensive scout. Not the best of investments, I have to say. It killed a Zergling, so that's its accomplishment to date. Perhaps it'll kill another Zergling, but not the best use of Dark Templar, I have to say, by Shuttle this game. And if Shuttle had sent out his Corsairs and maybe killed the Overlord in the 3 o'clock position, he might actually have been able to cause some damage, maybe picked off a drone to at least stop mining for a bit. But Shuttle is still sitting in his base. I really am not quite sure what he's doing here. He's poking his Dark Templar around as a scout. He seems to be quite concerned about the Dark Templar and not very concerned. Or rather, he seems to be very concerned about his Corsairs, not concerned about his Dark Templar at all. Another creep colony going down here at the 3 o'clock base. 5 drones morphing. Whoa, so it looks like Shine is really droning up here. That's quite a few drones to be seen morphing at once. I don't know how the observers caught that, but they did. And, ooh, those Scourge picking off a Corsair. Maybe this is why Shuttle is keeping his Corsairs in his base, because he's got absolutely atrocious Corsair micro. Those Scourge were just sent to scout. I don't think Shine actually expected to kill anything with those Scourge. He just sort of ran into Shuttle's Corsairs, and Shuttle had buildings to spot for him. I mean, this is kind of sad by Shuttle. I mean, it doesn't matter how good your Mulus Scourge micro is. 2 Scourge gets like 6 Mulus. The Protoss loses Corsair. That's the Protoss' fault. It looks like these Scourge coming in massive battle here. Scourge taking out nearly every single Corsair. I have to say, amazing play by Shine, but it looks like there are a lot of Zealots and an Archon barreling down at 3 o'clock, killing the defenses, killing most of the Hydras. In fact, forcing the drones to evacuate. There is a solitary lurker there. There are no observers out for Shuttle, so that is his saving grace to Corsairs engaging in Mulus, and the Mulus force being whittled down somewhat. There are still 3 Corsairs alive, which can take on these Mulus. Fortunately for Shine, he's got 3 more lurkers, and the Hydra's coming out to mop up the Zealots. He's defended without really too much loss. He's lost some defensibility and a few units there, but I don't think he'll care. His economy was untouched. And now the only real advantage Shuttle has left is his +1 attack on his Zealots. He is morphing more Archons for some reason. He seems really concerned about Meatless, even though quite a few Hydras are coming his way. I think he would have been better off saving up Storm energy. I mean, there are only a few Meatless in the red, it looks like, and his Corsair fleet will easily be able to deal with this. I'm not quite sure why he morphed to Archon. 2 Storms right here would have been crippling on Shine, but I guess he was really worried about air, and now he's getting his Robo Bay. He does not even have observers to spot these lurkers. Shuttle's going to be in some trouble here. A lot of pressure on his front. He needs some cannons, and he needs to fall back to the cannons here. Fortunately for him, he is morphing a few extra cannons, and these Hydralisks coming, maybe they'll pick at the cannons. Looks like that might be exactly what Shine's doing. He's going to pick away at the cannons, and then the lurkers will have free reign. The Archon, the cannon goes down. There are only a few Zealots left. The second cannon may very well go down. More morphing in the back, warping rather in the back, and Shine needs reinforcements. Now, fortunately, he's got reinforcements out. These Zealots can do nothing against the lurkers without observers, and through that choke point, it's absolute massacre. The gateway goes down. These lurkers are, the Hydras are pouring. There are 3 lurkers stealing back, and the Hydras are killing stuff. Storm, great Storm coming out by Shuttle, managed to ward off Shine for now. I think Shine will probably be forced back, but no, he's got reinforcements coming, and he's picking away at that pylon. In fact, that seems to be the only pylon morphing. That pylon goes down. All those cannons may be unpowered. I think Shine needs to focus fire down that pylon. The lurkers are going to kill the pylon, and the pylon goes down. All the cannons are empowered. This has got to be GG. The second pylon morphing, but those critical seconds that the cannons went down, those Hydras killed 3 of the cannons, it seems like. And Shine is going to win, I feel. Even, I guess, if the pylon weren't killed and the cannons unpowered, Shine would probably still win by numbers. But this certainly aided his victory, and Shuttle looking quite frustrated there. Although he didn't play too well, so I'm not quite sure why he was so frustrated. 2 Dark Templar coming out, not going to do anything. GG coming from Shuttle. This has been the final match. It looks like Shine and Jangbi are advancing out of this group. Both have been in the OSL in the past, so that's good. And yeah, going on to the wow. Thank you for watching. Rather, there are no more matches in this group, so thank you for watching.
이걸로 가는 듯 저걸로 가는 듯 뮤탈리스크 들키고 막 이러는 가운데에서 적당하게 2도씩 3도씩 살짝 그 일상적인 패턴을 벗어나면서 드론 선수를